Thank you.
Good morning, Steve Duraco. How are you doing? Tweaking the camera here. Yeah, winter has arrived. It's too darn cold. What is it, 60? See what my app says. $59. I overestimated. It's 59 degrees. It'll be 57 by 7 o'clock. Temperature's going down. Hector Gomez, Ralph Balderas, welcome in. We are Polar Bear, Steve Duraco. 61 in Beeville, according to Ralph Balderas. Tracy Bogert, welcome.
Chris Duel.
You made it to the weekend. The football weekend has begun. It is Thursday. Thursday means football in the National Football League. Thursday means college football. There's always some kind of offerings. It's not always the best ever. And, of course, the Thursday night game is Falcons hosting Patriots. And there's high school football playoff action across the great state of Texas and across our shores in America. Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Shannon, it is 59 degrees outside my studio. You know me, I don't like temperatures below 70, so I guess I'll have to deal with it.
Is it dropping too? I think I saw the low is like 46 today.
Oh my goodness.
Is this it? Or is this, are we not coming back from
now? Let's see. Ooh, yeah. By tomorrow, it's going to drop until sunrise and then start heading into the 60s. But yeah, overnight, it's going to get down to 46. I know in San Antonio. I'm not sure about Austin. So probably similar and maybe even a little cooler in Austin. We'll have to check that.
Yeah, we talked earlier about Pete Carroll's hand warmer.
41 in Austin tomorrow, by the way.
I feel like I'm going to need one of those hand warmers just to get from the car into work in the morning.
Wow.
I'm team always cold.
40, yes.
When you get to 40, that's frigid to me.
Yeah. So tomorrow, 41 for the low in Austin, 46 in San Antonio. Amazing. A 5-degree difference and only 70 miles separate us. So it's a little weird. So Shannon, how are you on this Thursday morning? We start the weekend on Thursday because we can and because we should. So, and it's a throwback Thursday. So I put embarrassing pictures of at least you and me on Twitter this morning. So
yeah, I think the one you chose for me today was from I hate taking photos.
Yeah,
especially like photo shoot style photos, and that was from my senior photos in high school. And I look the exact same, but I just remember that day out in Zilker Park, also very cold, just like, are we done? Are we done? And I think that was one of the last shots because I had, at that point, pulled my hair back into my signature ponytail look. So I think that's why I'm most happy in that specific shot you chose.
And it looks like you're wearing your basketball letter jacket.
Yep. The classic. If you're an athlete in high school, you've got to have the classic Letterman jacket senior shot.
Absolutely. Well, Shannon, lots to talk about this morning. NFL, of course, Thursday night football tonight. Lots of goings on in the NFL. Big Astros news since we last convened. And I don't know. I mean, I hope Justin Verlander, who the Astros signed yesterday, I hope he's still got something left in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to spend that kind of coin and obviously, whatever's going to happen with Carlos Correa, I'd rather have him. If I'm not going to get Carlos, I mean, I don't want to lose both of them.
Yeah.
Right. And he almost said audition. He worked out for a couple of teams. Astros weren't listed as any of those teams, and they said he looked great.
I had heard that. Yeah.
So I was kind of nervous that, oh my gosh, he looks great, and he's not going to end up staying. I mean, after this year, I think pitching is what it's going to take to get the Astros to that final finish that they were so hoping for this year. So I'm okay with him sticking around for at least another year.
Yeah, let's see what he's got. And if anybody, I think he's 37 now. I got to figure out when he turns 38. But if anybody has the skill set to maybe still be effective, at that advanced age, Verlander certainly has a history of being an ace and being phenomenal a couple years ago.
So his advanced age is currently 38. He'll be 39 in February.
He's older than I thought he was.
So if he does that player option of a second year, he'd be playing at 40.
He's a year older than I thought he was. I thought he was 37 now. He's 38 now.
And I'm assuming that's his brother that broke it's official news.
I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
Some
Last
other
name is
Verlander broke it and everybody ran with it.
That's kind of cool.
Afternoon.
Give your brother the scoop.
Yeah, that is very cool. Well, hey, if the people on Facebook Live can see, we had him briefly last week. Good to have him back. He is a sports dude, the pride of Oklahoma State University, even though he doesn't have a mullet, and even though he's not yet a man and 40 years old. Jeremy Kolak. Jeremy, how are you doing today? Uh-oh, I'm not hearing you on the microphone. Here we go.
You got me now?
I have you now. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are y'all doing this morning? It's very good to be back.
We're doing well. Now, you've done a lot of time on the Mike Taylor Show, and recently you've run a lot of the UTSA broadcasts, including the Jeff Traylor Show last night. So how are you handling first thing in the morning this morning? Are you wiped out? Are you tired? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing well. I'm not too bad. It's
all right.
A good day today.
So, all right. We just want to make sure. Do you guzzle coffee and tea like I do to try to get a stimulant going in the morning?
I like to drink a lot of water in the morning.
Oh, come on.
Dehydrated. But here's my coffee has always been, I don't like spending money on coffee, but if I am inside of a building that is going to offer me free coffee, I'm going to take free coffee in the morning. It's always been the rule I live by in the morning.
Free coffee is a beautiful thing.
Did you tell him about the coffee there?
I didn't. I haven't told him about the coffee. Have you had coffee in this building in the morning yet, Jeremy? Have you sampled it?
Of course I've had coffee.
Okay, your review.
How did it taste?
It's not bad. Well, I mean, if you're going to give me free coffee, I'm not going to say it's bad, honestly. But
it is
to be honest, it was good coffee here. I was impressed.
Wow. See, Shannon, maybe things have changed around here.
I think you've had the coffee from there.
Yes, I've stayed away from it for months. All right, Jeremy, it used to taste like soap. We had a morning security guard who was very diligent about scrubbing the coffee pots to make sure that they were crystal clean, but apparently this security guard wasn't keen on the rinse cycle. So that was back when Tanner Carlson was here. We both tasted that coffee, and it tasted like 60% coffee and 40% soap. And I said, to this day, I bring my own darn coffee. I don't drink house coffee here anymore.
I just have low standards on coffee. I don't think I tasted any soap.
I got to ask you, because I tuned in a little bit last night. We love Jeff Traylor, the UTSA head football coach, who joins this show every Monday at 8:35 in the morning, which is so cool because it's coming off a football weekend. And for 10 straight weeks, that has meant a victory for UTSA. They are 10-0. They got a huge one against UAB on Saturday at the Alamo Dome. So you ran the board on the Jeff Traylor Show yesterday with Andy Everett out at the Sandbox near UTSA. Could you tell? I'm guessing the crowd there is growing because the popularity of UTSA football is certainly skyrocketing locally and nationally. What was the sound of the crowd last night, and any takeaways from Jeff Traylor last night on the Jeff Traylor Show?
Well, the crowd, you could tell the crowd is growing by the week, and it's funny because when I'm listening on a headset before the show starts, like 2 minutes before the show starts, you could hear when Coach Traylor walked into the restaurant because everybody started applauding him like he had just won the Cotton Bowl. So it sounds like a fun atmosphere, and the hype is real.
Very cool. He's kind of like Elvis now in San Antonio. If you have a Jeff Traylor side, he's like, whoa, there's Elvis. That's very. He may Shannon. He may have to get like the white jumpsuit with the cape, the white cape.
Yeah, you need to tell him that because I'd like some direction. I feel like my job for Jeff Traylor is to keep him humble, personally.
Yeah,
just throw a little bit of salt in there.
Well, and again, he's been humble so far. We haven't seen him get cocky yet.
That's right.
But I will on Monday. I'll bring up the Elvis thing if he'll consider that look.
Yeah. Have you ever seen him out and around town?
I haven't crossed his path. Jeremy, have you seen him?
No, I have not seen him. Maybe someone should tell him he needs to do a little bit better marketing himself as a normal citizen. Maybe he needs to post some pictures on Twitter of him picking up some tacos or something. You know what I mean?
Well, apparently he's quite, Shannon, you've talked about this on campus at UTSA. He's handing out food. He's apparently very visible and very accessible and friendly. And so it seems Jeff Traylor sure seems like he's making all the right moves. I haven't seen that dude do anything that wasn't just spot on what he should be doing on and off the field yet. He's pretty amazing.
He is. Very awesome, and I'm liking your Elvis theory even more now.
And speaking of, I'm wearing on Throwback Thursday. I'm wearing an Elvis T-shirt.
Oh, would you look at that?
I got the whole Elvis thing going. I got a Beatles hat for Throwback Thursday and an Elvis T-shirt. So it's a beautiful thing. And Jeremy, one of these, I'm going to go scour your social media and find an incriminating 10-year-old photo of you somewhere so we can embarrass you on Thursdays. Right now it is 6:20 though. We do this on the 20s all day long, starting at 6:20. Your chance to win $1,000 wherever you're hearing this radio station, whether it's coming out of AM 1300 The Zone in Austin, Ticket 760 in San Antonio. You might be listening on the iHeart Radio app. Lots of people joining us on the live video feed right now. Wherever you are, every hour somebody wins $1,000. You're going to get a keyword and a place to text that keyword, and you could be in the money. Here it is.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword green to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's green to 200-200.
Green is the keyword. Best of luck. We'll give you another shot at 7:20, 8:20 all day and until 9:20 tonight. Speaking of the UTSA Roadrunners and the guy who sat next to head coach Jeff Traylor last night on the Jeff Traylor Show, Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA athletics. He's going to join us at 8:35. We'll talk UTSA and get you ready for that. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, on a game night. Spurs in Minneapolis tonight to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. And by the way, Shannon, as you probably saw, I did find incriminating older photos. I got a photo of Andy Everett, looks about 15, 20 years old. He looks like he's 16 in the photo. Got a photo of Bill Schoening. It's so old, it's black and white. Looks like it's from a newspaper. So we did tweet those out at Ticket 760 at AM 1300 The Zone if you want to check them out. And Shannon, this is one of those nights for the Spurs. I do believe Minnesota. Now, granted, it's a road game, so they're tougher on the road. But I think Minnesota, two things. One, they're 5-9. That is their overall record. And secondly, they played last night in Minneapolis, which is crazy. So it's a home back-to-back for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So you got to believe they're a little spent. Now, and they did win last night. So they were 4-9. They won last night, so I got to believe they're happy with themselves. At 4-10 now, Shannon, this is one of those games that I think this young Spurs team needs to step up and win.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, just given what we've seen from them thus far, the record being what it is. Obviously, it's going to be huge when they beat the likes of the Bucks or the Nets or something.
Well, they beat the Bucks already, by the way.
Right.
I'll just throw that in. But yeah.
But when they face these games where you see their record is very similar,
yeah,
you feel like if the Spurs team is going in the right direction with how they are doing this rebuild and what they're doing with these young guys, that this would be one of those games that they need to prove that point. To keep the fan base engaged and believing that this is the right direction that we're going in and not this, like, what are we doing vibe that might occur should, the unthinkable happen. I haven't seen the line or anything or who's favored in this one.
Minnesota by 2.5. I'm looking at it right now.
That's not much for being at home. So I think it should be a good game for the Spurs tonight.
Yeah, Minnesota, as I mentioned, 5-9. The Spurs are 4-10. And home and away records, Minnesota 3-6, including Minnesota beat the Sacramento Kings last night at home. So a couple of things. Again, it's a back-to-back. So from a fatigue standpoint, even though the Spurs are the road team, you would think the Spurs would be more rested than the Timberwolves. And T-Wolves 3-6 at home now, Spurs 2-6 on the road. So the Timberwolves not exactly a behemoth at home either at the Target Center in Minneapolis. I really, Shannon, really want to see the Spurs get a win tonight. They really, and at 4-10 now, they've lost a couple in a row. They really need one right now. This would, I think, do a lot of good for them. They need to just start. They've been in a lot of games late, and as we've talked about a lot, and again, we'll talk about this with Bill Schoening at 8 o'clock, just after 8 o'clock. They've had a hard time closing. So if they could win this one and close, I think this would be a really good shot of adrenaline for them. Yeah. I think they'd feel better about themselves. Yeah, I'm looking. It's 3 in a row now. The Spurs have lost 3 in a row. So yeah, you lose this one. You lose to a team that's not that good, a team that either you should beat or you could beat. And if you walk out of Minneapolis tonight, out of the Target Center with a 4-game losing streak, that's going to be kind of tough.
Well, and I'm just like you looking at their schedule, and I think it's going to be huge just for morale and momentum, because the Spurs' next few games, the Suns.
Ooh, they're red hot. They've won 10 in a row. Suns have won 10 in a row.
The Hawks, the Celtics, and the Wizards, who
are first in the East.
Yes. So I think just as far as, even if they do go on to perhaps not play so well through those next 4 games, getting a win here to kind of break it up, I think would just be huge for morale overall. And again, to prove to the fan base and keep them engaged, because once you lose the fan base, I think it's harder on the players to believe it as well.
Yeah, a lot of fans are freaking out. But you talk about those next 4 games after tonight, Shannon. Glass half empty. If you're a pessimist, and I'm not.
The Suns beat my Mavs last night. I'm just saying, by some.
Yeah, Mavs were without Luka though, weren't they? Wasn't Luka out last night?
Yeah, the injury he suffered the other night.
Okay,
I think he missed that one.
So that's not. But Mavs without Luka to me aren't. And I know Kristaps Porzingis has been playing like a maniac, but to me the Mavs without Luka aren't that's like the Spurs in the Duncan era without Tim Duncan. It's just not exactly
Mavs light edition.
Yeah, but all right. So, but I was going to say, we'll take a quick break. If they lose tonight, and that's 4 in a row, the 4 you mentioned, Shannon, you could lose those 4. An 8-game losing streak. I won't even think that. I'm not even going to speak that into existence. Coming up, the high 5 play of the day, 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, sports history, sports birthdays. As I mentioned, a huge 8 o'clock hour, 2 great guests. Voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. Voice of the UTSA Roadrunners, Andy Everett. That's going to be a lot of fun. Jeremy is with us. Jeremy 2.0 for you longtime listeners, not the other Jeremy that you were thinking about. This guy is, although Oklahoma connections for each of our last 2 Jeremys. Jeremy Fouts went to Oklahoma Christian University, and Jeremy Kolak went to Oklahoma State University. What is up with all these Oklahoma people? All right. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us. We are with you till 9 this morning. Lots to cover on the Chris Duel Show. Beth Settle, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'll read the names I see. Steve Duraco, the original Rock. Ralph Balderas. Hector Gomez. Tracy Bogert. Anthony Del Toro. Luisa Alanis. Tracy Bogert with the playoffs. Did you say playoffs? Anthony Del Toro, I think I said that. Jason Paniagua with a buenos dias, amigos. Barney Segura, good morning. Chris Gonzalez. When Jeff walks in, Jeff Traylor, he is like stone cold Steve Austin with the glass breaking. O.M. Garcia, good morning. O.M. loves Elvis, as do I, clearly. Yeah, Wes Perkins, we will talk about that Big 12 story, sir, involving those announcers for Texas Tech. Yeah, the Cy Young Awards last night. You said Cry Young Awards, Tracy Bogert. Yeah, there is the comment by Wes Perkins. I Well, I was going to go get coffee. Sometimes it's warm enough the first time I access it. Yeah, 59 degrees. I brought my hoodie today. My Dallas Cowboys hoodie. Cowboys. 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 And it's reversible. So you can either wear blue or you reverse it. And thank you, Beth Settle, for getting this for me. You reverse it and it's gray and it's still got all your Cowboys and NFC paraphernalia on it. How about them Cowboys? Thank you. All right. Let us sample the coffee. So, yeah, this is how weird I am. Now I've got hot and cold. So I got the hot coffee and I got the cold iced tea. The only thing they have in common, caffeine. I'm a little more awake this morning than yesterday. Yesterday I was coming off that West Coast Spurs game. Okay, I have to, if I have a moment.
With Staples Connect. I need a gift for the person who has everything. Everything, including a super thoughtful daughter. Also possible, because Staples Connect has the innovative tech gifts your loved ones need to work and learn from anywhere. Like right now, save up to $50 on select Apple AirPods. This holiday, explore what's new at your local Staples store or staplesconnect.com. Staples Connect, the working and learning store. Ends 11/20, but supplies last.
I'm editing some commercials I had to record this morning. Got one more here. Una más.
Don't wait to put an end to junk sleep. Shop Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale and wake up a better you. Save up to $500.
Yeah, we're getting the Black Friday commercials now. I hear a Mattress Firm Black Friday commercial. The one I just recorded cites Black Friday. That's happening now. That's a thing.
To celebrate State Farm's surprisingly great rates, we give the song surprisingly great rates.
Great rates in your cash, so if you come join us, you'll get your mind up. And you know you can save that dough. And you're covering on your ride and your home. For great service on the low, then call up State Farm. It's time to switch it up.
Like a nickname, State Farm's.
Let's see. Beautiful. Okay, I need 3. There's that. Okay. I'll have to do that later. I didn't see the 3. Woo! Woo! John Williams sent me something. What did you send me? Thank you. I'll have to read that closer, John, when I get a chance. Did you get the email that I sent you from Shannon? It's got a link for oh no, there's no audio. It's okay. I thought it was audio. There's no audio. But did you get that email? Okay. Yeah, I'm not hearing you, but I can read your lips that you said yeah. Now I hear you. Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes there in the future you'll be on that list because I'll know when you're here, like tomorrow. But yeah, so sometimes she'll send audio with either High Five or the Salty Shakedown. So just keep an eye out for that. But yeah, there's not specifically today. I remember I saw the link, but in my head I didn't know if it was audio or not. All right. Woo! Thank you, sir.
Just because we get it right.
Little Who. Very nice. Whatever generation you may be. We are talking about all generations of sports. Lots going on the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney on a begin the weekend on Thursday, football Thursday, Thursday night football. The Atlanta Falcons coming off that shellacking at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday last week. So they have a quick turnaround. They are at home at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight in Atlanta, but they're taking on the Patriots. And Shannon, all of a sudden, these Patriots at 6-4, we talked about them yesterday. They're a half game behind your 6-3 Buffalo Bills. They'll probably get a win tonight against Atlanta, unless Atlanta can look significantly better tonight. I mean, Patriots go to 7-4 tonight. They're, certainly in the mix for an AFC wild card, if not find a way to get past Buffalo in that AFC East.
Tom Brady leaving the Patriots was a huge win for me personally, as I, had changed fandoms from the Chiefs to the Bills following my friend Mitch Morris, who is their center. And, it really opened up the doorway for anybody else to come and take what had been the Patriots for so long in that AFC title and that division. So I'm not comfortable right now with where the Patriots are, but I think it's a lot and great credit to Mac Jones, the, as we know now, former actor model Mac Jones. Do you see him? I know we're getting to that point where like yearly awards are starting to be discussed. Who's in the running? Do you like him for Rookie of the Year thus far? If he continues the way he's been going?
You know what? Yeah, I kind of do. I heard somebody on the national media say, a lot of people say he's a rookie, but, he played for Nick Saban for 4 years. So he's actually been in pro football. This is his 5th year in pro football. So, yeah, I mean, he's, although, Micah Parsons, I know we could break it down to offensive, defensively. Yeah. Micah Parsons looking very good too. But, yeah, as much as I know a lot of us have Patriots fatigue and Alabama fatigue since he's from Alabama. But, yeah, you can't. He's taken care of business and he's done what he's been asked to do. And the Patriots are back to being relevant again.
I know. I admittedly wish they suffered just a little bit longer without Tom Brady.
Yes. And again, Bill Belichick, like him or dislike him, and a lot of people dislike him, he's proven, we talked a lot about this last year. Brady won that divorce in a big way in year one, but Belichick proving, and we'll see that still a lot of games left in the season. And, Patriots could fall flat on their face tonight at Atlanta, go to 6-5 and be closer to 500. But so far, so good this season for the Patriots, and certainly rookie quarterback and former child actor and model Mac Jones. All right, it is 6:41. We do this every morning at this time because it's the right thing to do. Hand out a high five or two to someone who is deserving. It's the high five play of the day. It is appropriately sponsored by High Five, 2 High Five locations in the Austin area. So much going on at both of them. You got big screen TVs everywhere, great food, great drinks, food specials, drink specials, games you can play, whether it's bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, or whatever it might be. It is High Five, 2 locations in Austin. And Shannon, who is deserving of a high five this morning?
I know Astros fans probably aren't going to want to hear this, but it is the season of giving. And for those athletes that go out and do good deeds, we've got to show them some love. We've got to give them their props. We've got to give them their high fives. So we're going to go to LA and give our high five today to Mookie Betts and Company. Him, along with the LA Dodgers Foundation, hosted a Thanksgiving handout. They dubbed it Thanksgiving Grab and Go. Also part of the event was Brotherhood Crusade, acts inspired by Mookie and the Magic Johnson Enterprise. Thanksgiving, we are a week out, folks. It's hard to believe, but we're almost here. And yesterday at the event, they passed out 1,000 meals that were complete with 16-pound turkeys, fixings, and desserts. They also had opportunities for folks who haven't received their COVID shots yet to get those. It was first come, first serve. And if they didn't have the meals left, those who did show up were provided with, I believe, some COVID testing kits and things like that to make sure they were staying safe. I love stuff like this. We talked about CeeDee Lamb last week, walking around a Dallas area grocery store, passing out $100 gift cards for those that I'm sure were stocking up for their Thanksgiving to spend with their families. So to see Mookie Betts, we're in their off season, right? I mean, a lot of those guys are probably still hanging out in Cabo or wherever they go to get away from it all after a long, drawn out season, especially when you're from the Dodgers, and he did appear in the playoffs, and it didn't go the way you wanted it to. There's some good video of Mookie Betts dancing, having a great time. So on top of it, you could tell that he was enjoying the experience as well, which just makes it that much better. Thank you to Mookie Betts for doing something like this, and a high five to you and everyone involved.
Yeah, and I love, again, Shannon, that's why I love why we do this, the high five play of the day, highlighting a great story involving an athlete such as Mookie Betts in this case. So often, there's negative stories about athletes out there. The most horrific recently was that, Henry Ruggs, the third story in Las Vegas when he was driving and impaired and killed another motorist. So those that are doing good things, God love them. And I have heard, I pay attention to news out of Los Angeles a lot, having lived there. I lived there for over 12 years, went to college there at USC. And I hear the homeless population in Los Angeles has really exploded. That, there was always Skid Row in LA, and you'd go by there and you'd see a lot of people living on the side of the road in tents. But my understanding now in Los Angeles, the homeless problem is bigger than ever and is kind of growing exponentially. So to do this, to help, people who need food, and especially at a time like this, Thanksgiving, and I hope that people, realize do more than just at Thanksgiving and just at Christmas. And I trust that people do, but especially now, and especially if you're having hard times, the holiday season, you see it everywhere, and you probably grew up with Thanksgiving and family and Christmas, and it all meant something very, very special to you. So to be down and out and going through very, very challenging times, to know somebody out there cares about you, and then to see a guy like Mookie Betts, who is a superstar for your local baseball team, in the case of the LA Dodgers, that's just a great, great story.
And still a very relatively new superstar to that area.
True.
Obviously, people have heard of one Mookie Betts prior to, but still relatively new to that team.
Yes, absolutely. So way to go, Mookie Betts. All right, Shannon, I want to talk about this. I think this is a big story. I think it opens up a lot of questions, and it's also something I want to bring up with Bill Schoening. And Wes Perkins wrote about it. In fact, on the live video feed, we'll highlight his comment. You can see it if you're joining us on the video on Facebook Live or Twitter. If not, don't worry about it, because we'll read it to you. Wes writes, "Not a banner day for the Big 12, as horrible officiating occurred Saturday at the Texas Tech versus Iowa State game. Instead of reviewing that, Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, suspended Texas Tech radio play-by-play broadcasters Chris Jensen and John Harris." Wes Perkins writes, "Unreal." I heard the audio, Shannon. They were highly critical of the officiating, and they even called out Bob Bowlesby. They said, how does Bob Bowlesby think about this? They were saying, clearly the Big 12 wants Iowa State to win this game today. Then they did something unusual, which of everything they did, I'm a little troubled by the most. They started reading the names of every official on the field. Now, granted, that's public knowledge and you can find it out,
right.
but it almost, the subtext to me was, in a culture where there's violence and there are threats of violence against public figures and sporting figures around the world when things go bad, it just seemed like they were baiting their listeners to learn more about each of these officials individually and maybe seek them out and threaten them. So Bob Bowlesby yesterday suspends them from broadcasting the next Texas Tech game. Shannon, your thoughts on this story? Kind of a big move. And well, let me say this before I ask you your opinion. I'm a little torn by it because you and I are broadcasters and all of us are sports fans, and we want our play-by-play people to be able to call it like they see it and tell it like it is. So on one level, I want play-by-play people to have the freedom of speech to say what they think and not get sanctioned for it. So I don't like that. But I do see as well, Bob Bowlesby cites the bylaws of the Big 12 that all universities are supposed to adhere to when it comes to criticizing the officials. And he says that these broadcasters employed by the university, therefore, are responsible to adhere to Big 12 guidelines. So I can see that by the letter of the law, he may be right. I found it a bit chilling that these guys were reading off the names of all the officials on the field. Shannon, how do you feel about it?
I haven't heard the audio like you, but I'm aware of the story. We all know I'm a stickler for the rules. And so from that standpoint, I understand being taken off the air. You talked about it, them mentioning the names of those guys, whether they meant it or not. That's just the world we live in. And, if they go search themselves on Twitter, what are they going to see? Especially when it is a game, it's towards the end of the season, people are drinking. The United States just played Mexico pretty recently, and they won. But due to Mexico losing, I believe it's a player, he and his family were receiving death threats and just horrible things. No one even called him out for it. So I can only imagine the kind of things that might be said about someone who you feel is to blame for a win or loss, whatever, and you're being called out by name specifically for that very reason of you're not doing your job. Listen, I've blamed the refs for many things personally while watching football games, but I've never given them credit for a win or loss at the end of the day. There are certainly calls I wish were taken back or calls that I wish were made, but they do the job to the best of their ability. I got to believe that. I got to stick by that. Every now and then, sure, there's probably a bad egg, but in this case, I want the radio guys to be able to, like you said, call it like you see it. But there is a little bit of, this is the tech broadcasting crew, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they probably do have a little bit of, leniency towards their own team that they cover regularly, week in and week out. They probably announce those touchdowns a little bit louder than they do for the opponent. But you are supposed to remain neutral as well. And so when you start calling out names specifically, you do kind of start to show your sleeve there. And I think that's kind of what got them in that position as well.
Yeah, and I'll since we don't have the audio at the moment, we might grab it later and play it to you. Let me just read you some quotes. And Jeremy, you're a Big 12 guy as well. I want to get your thoughts on this, see if you agree with it. But here's a quote from the broadcast from one of the two Texas Tech broadcasters said, quote, and this is during the football game, "I'll say it right now. The Big 12 does not want Iowa State to lose this game." And then he goes on to say, "Yeah, Bob Bowlesby, you need to answer to this. This is ridiculous. The inconsistency of this referee crew in favor of Iowa State. Unbelievable." He goes on to say the Big 12 should be embarrassed. The Big 12 should be embarrassed with this group. We've only pointed out two guys. I'm going to read them all to you. And then he read the names of every official on the field. Jeremy, your thoughts on this? You're a football guy as well. You called out Bob Bowlesby, and you said that the Big 12 is trying to make sure that Iowa State wins that game. Should these guys be suspended?
Yeah, when I first saw the story drop that the Big 12 was, reprimanding or suspending them, I was like, oh, the Big 12's at it again, you know what I mean? But after I read the quote, just like you did, you can't be naming the names of the referees on the broadcast, like and they can't be saying Bob Bowlesby's name the way they did. That's just so. I mean, yeah, they probably deserve some sort of punishment, even though it was in the heat of the moment. And I think it was a bad call that they were upset about.
Yeah, and they may have. And the big question here as well, Shannon and Jeremy, is what if the referee sucked that day? And according to Wes Perkins and a lot of people we trust, yeah, the refs sucked that day. But when they suck, do you, as a Texas Tech or a Texas or an Oklahoma State broadcaster, do you have the right to say the Big 12 is throwing this game for the other team? Hey, Bob Bowlesby, you should be ashamed of yourself. What do you have to say for this? And then you read the names of the officials. Shannon, to me, that's going just a little too far as a broadcaster.
Yeah, and I think to Bowlesby's point after the fact in, hammering down the suspension and releasing the statement that he did, he's drawing the line and said, this was too far. Right. Because we often get guys who, that didn't, there was a flag on the play. Oh, that didn't look like anything. Oh, they missed it. That they talk about that stuff. but they aren't reading the names and calling on the commissioner. And I know, listen, Bob Bowlesby, he doesn't have the best rep for a lot of things involved in the Big 12, and the refereeing, obviously one of the things that seems pretty consistent throughout his tenure. But like you said, once you start naming names, you know, in the context and in the way we're living these days, that we can't have that. And so I do feel it in his right to go ahead and use that power to say, you need to take a week off.
We'll talk more about this. Got another comment from Wes Perkins, who, by the way, is a Texas Tech alum. So, and we know he's a huge Texas Tech fan. So we take his point of view seriously. We'll talk about the new starting quarterback for the New York Jets, Henry Ruggs, in more trouble. Lots to cover: NFL, college football, NBA, and more. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy making the show go. We are with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Clint Proctor, you're in late, and we're talking Texas Tech, baby. Yeah, and Jason's saying, I've heard broadcasters berate officials before, but that was a little much. I agree with the one-game suspension. And I kind of am as well. And again, Shannon and I clearly, we're no Bob Bowlesby fans. We think he's made some missteps and he's got some issues. But I think, you know, you when you say the conference is trying to make sure that Iowa State wins this game, and you call out the commissioner and you say, hey, man, you should be ashamed. What do you have to say for this? And then it was like 1, 2, 3. It was like if any one of these three wasn't present, maybe it's not as bad. But one, you said the conference wants Iowa State and they're doing everything they can to make sure Iowa State wins this game. 2, then you call out Bob Bowlesby by name and say you should be ashamed of yourself. What do you have to say for this? And then 3, you say, all right, we've been talking about these 2 officials. Let me read the name of every official out there on the field right now. Yeah. Those 3 things back to back to back, I do believe warrant a sanction. And one game, I mean, you don't fire these guys, obviously. One game and move on. Wes Perkins, and I'm going to go heat up my coffee. Let me read what you said. My concern is this. You don't take 20 to 30 years of broadcasting into account. Reprimand and fine, sure. Suspension, that's suppression of media and freedom of speech, although I agree you represent your university and the Big 12. All right, Wes, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you could have made the statement by fining them or the university and therefore make a statement that way and doing something that would hurt the university, therefore them in the pocketbook. But, and again, the counter argument to what you're saying there, Wes, you're taking them off the air for one game. You know, Texas Tech presumably will have 2 other guys or gals, hopefully if they're diverse, in the broadcast booth for that game. And those will be, you know, they won't be the first teamers, but they'll be Texas Tech broadcasters, I would think, and pro Texas Tech. It's a great story, though, and obviously, Wes, you and Clint and Texas Tech people clearly have a point of view and a stake in this. I'm going to grab my coffee. I'll be right back. I grabbed my coffee. I'm going to keep my coffee. Speaking of coffee, we see Lucinda Sullivan with her coffee emoji. She is our patron saint of coffee on this show.
To the max. So BC introduces new BC Max Strength. New BC Max relieves tough headaches and body pain at the speed of powder. Nothing stronger on pain without a prescription. Pain to the max. New BC Max. In a great tasting lemonade flavor.
Thank you, Mike Taylor. Always kind enough to sit in for me when I get coffee. All right. AC Gonzalez, good morning. Good morning, AC. Let's see. I've got to edit one more spot here. Let's see where that is. What about?
Diamonds Direct kicks off the holiday shopping season with an awesome promotion that starts on Black Friday. 4-year zero-interest financing on any holiday purchase. That's right, you can spread your payments over 4 years without paying a dime in interest. Guys, this gives you permission to splurge. Has she been dreaming of a new engagement ring, a bigger diamond, an elegant pair of...
That's not good. Thank God for editing. Shannon, can you hear me? Hey, Jeremy, can you hear me? When you're on the mic, and part of it is I'm so darn loud, but and even compared to Shannon in my ear, your voice level is like, like 30% lower. So I would get a little bit closer to the mic when you go. And again, I'll ask Shannon if she's hearing the same thing. It might just be me, but I just get a little more on top of the mic. So I had a couple of times I was like straining to hear you a little bit. Wasn't bad. I still heard you, but I just want to make sure it's if it's being broadcast that way, I want to make sure we're hearing your voice fuller. Otherwise, great stuff. Love what you're doing. All right, let's see. Here we go again. Still need a second to cut here. Let's see. 1, right. Absolutely, Wes. And I don't think if you can call in, Wes, you'd be great on this, obviously. And I didn't have a chance. Later in the show, maybe we'll grab that audio. I heard it this morning on national radio. That is just perfect timing for my microphone to fall off. Welcome in on a Throwback Thursday. I love this, Shannon. Right as we went to air, my microphone fell off of its stand. My mic just fell off.
You got a screw loose?
I got a screw loose. We all know that's true.
Yeah.
But
it does happen, though. I've been there.
Well, but it's like it didn't happen during the break.
I didn't see it.
It didn't happen at 7:01 or 7:02 or so. It happened, boom, right as we go on the air at 7:06. Thank you. Great. Okay. Whatever. First world radio
The
problems.
mic didn't hear break on through to the other side. It just heard break. And
it just heard break.
Say no more.
Yeah, and that was it. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney on a Throwback Thursday, on a football Thursday, as we begin the NFL football weekend with Thursday night football. And Shannon, I heard, and I didn't see it, last night, the Hard Knocks Indianapolis Colts episode 1 in season drop.
That told me. How did I miss this?
Yeah.
It wasn't trending at it.
I'll have to watch it today. So, and I'm going to be very interested because so far, Shannon, we've never seen Hard Knocks in season like we are going to now, but I've never seen a Hard Knocks I didn't like. No matter what the team was, it's always compelling. It's always good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, and I got a feeling they will, because we've got some really good storylines now with the Indianapolis Colts. I'm wondering if it's going to be as good as it is before the season. And part of it, I wonder this. I'm so football starved in the summer before football season begins. So when I see Hard Knocks, I'm not saturated with football. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I wonder if the allure of Hard Knocks is going to be there in November as it is like in August.
Yeah, I think a lot of that will ride on the storylines that we get out of Indianapolis. And you mentioned that last week we talked about Carson Wentz. He's got a baby around the corner. I don't know if it's here yet or not, but he was like, I'm playing Sunday. Me and my wife have already talked about it. I will meet her at the hospital later if need be. So I feel almost invested, and since there are going to be camera crews, I mean, personally, if I'm in that situation, I don't want the camera crews around, but as a viewer, I think that'd be a really sweet moment, especially for a guy like Carson Wentz, who kind of these days kind of doesn't have the best reputation for outsiders. And I think a moment like that would be good for him.
Yeah.
And also I feel invested now. Like I said, I want to know what the deal is with the baby.
Okay, we got an update on the baby, and this is unofficial. It's a listener, but Chris Gonzalez says they had the baby on November 16th. That would
Tuesday?
be 2 days ago.
Okay.
So we'll run that down, make sure it's correct. Chris also says he saw Hard Knocks, and he says it was good, but they got rid of the interviews, which it makes sense that that they would have less access to players in the regular season than preseason, but
they've already got to sit down for all those other interviews.
How do you do it though without interviews? I guess I don't know. Yeah, so we'll have to see. So there's that. Jason Paniagua says he forgot as well. He'll have to watch it at 8:52 today. Thank you, Jason.
Well, and to your point, the Big 12, I know they did it with Kansas one year. I think it was Oklahoma State last year, and Texas has all access on the Longhorn Network, which is they're all similar style shows to Hard Knocks, and on ESPN Plus, I think that they have the Big 12. They usually follow a Big 12 school. And I watched a couple of episodes last year because it was Oklahoma State, because Mike Gundy is the character that he is. But you're right, I didn't consistently keep up with it because with everything else going on, the free time I did have that wasn't sports, I was like, I'm going to watch a stand-up comedy show or something else because that's my free time. Whereas in the summer, my free time is like, is there anything sports related that I can pay attention to today? So that'll be interesting. Episode 1.
That's one of my
Try and squeeze
assignments.
that in today.
It's one of my assignments for today. So you said you watched an Oklahoma State reality show with Gundy and company last year, Shannon?
Yeah. I specifically remember an episode where Gundy and his son were in the drive-thru at a Chick-fil-A for
Oh, my
way too
goodness.
long. We talked about Chick-fil-A the other day and how fast that drive-thru is. That one in Stillwater, I think, needs some work. I don't know. Now, Jeremy, being Oklahoma State,
Yep.
Mr. Cowboy, did you watch the entirety of that season? Or any of it at all?
Yeah, I watched most of it. I think I definitely didn't watch the Bedlam episode. Like
You did not watch the Bedlam
The one
episode? Wouldn't that be the
that's probably-
centerpiece
come on.
episode?
well, I mean, no, it didn't. It just. I mean, I watched the game, so I wouldn't want to watch the game
There
again.
was a lot of recap
But-
in those episodes.
Yeah.
Like I've already seen the
Exactly.
scores.
Exactly.
But did you
And
get
obviously-
Hard Knock vibes from that a little
yeah,
bit?
Yeah, it was the same kind of format, and it was right up my alley. I'm like, why are they doing this for OSU? But I'm not going to complain about it. But then, yeah, I saw it was just kind of our year, I guess, to finally get it. Yeah, it was fun.
Now, Shannon brings up the Chick-fil-A in Stillwater. Have you been to the Chick-fil-A in Stillwater? I imagine there's more than one Chick-fil-A in that
Oh,
town.
no, only one Chick-fil-A.
There's only one
Shut
Chick-fil-A.
up.
I've been, yeah,
Oh my gosh. I've never been. So I have no idea. how big
it's
it is.
it's pretty small town, but there's 2 Sonics and 2 Walmarts, and then everything else is by the ones. And that's the way it works.
2 Sonics and 2
Okay, well,
Walmarts.
that makes sense why it probably took so long at Chick-fil-A because since there is only one and everyone loves Chick-fil-A.
It's a hot
For that
destination.
Lord's chicken, that's probably a really long line.
Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, it's and it's interesting the way the economy is set up there. It's really tough for businesses to survive because during those 3 or so months in the summer when students aren't there, it's an absolute ghost town. I mean,
Ooh.
there's nobody in the town. There's definitely not enough townies to support businesses that aren't named Chick-fil-A, you know what I mean, that have that corporate backbone. So it's a really interesting economy there. It's really tough for businesses to grow there.
Don't kids go to summer school? Is there a summer semester at Oklahoma State?
A lot of people like to get out of Stillwater in the summer. For some
Imagine
reason.
that.
I found. Yeah,
Imagine that.
for whatever reason.
I'm young. I'm 20. It's summertime. I'd like to get out of Stillwater. I can kind of understand that. That's funny. All right. Now, Jeremy, why do you think I can understand the 2 Walmarts? Because Walmart has everything, and we all need clothes, and we all need food, and we all need everything they have at Walmart. But why 2 Sonics? I mean, just one Chick-fil-A. I'm assuming just one McDonald's. Do they have Whataburger in Stillwater? They got to have a
There
Whataburger.
is one Whataburger, but here's something interesting about Sonic. Actually, is they have 2 Sonics because one of the Sonics in Stillwater is America's first Sonic. It's on.
Wow.
Yeah, it's right on. I can't remember. It's on Main. I think it's on Main Street in Stillwater, and if you look it up, the company technically had its first store, its first like drive-in restaurant in another town, but they hadn't named the company Sonic yet. It was called something else. The
Okay.
first one that they named Sonic is right on Main Street in Stillwater. So it looks like a regular Sonic, but out front there's a statue of the guy who started, I guess, like holding his cane and whatnot, Mr. Sonic. I don't know his name, but
That I never knew that. That is a piece of trivia this morning that
Fun
yeah,
fact.
I
learned
did
something
not
new.
have when I started this show. America's first Sonic
Yeah.
in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
I was
And
like,
it
this
still
potato
exists.
spot game
So
is
you could eat
strong.
there.
Yeah, it's just a normal Sonic now, except for that statue out front. And they have some nice flowers, maybe that your normal Sonic won't have, just to festive it up a little.
Very nice. That is very, very cool. So how are you feeling about Bedlam? How are you feeling about, I mean, Oklahoma State's a very, very good football team this year. Is this the year that Oklahoma State slaps down Oklahoma and establishes its dominance in the state and in the Big 12?
Well, the main theme that I've kind of seen around the Oklahoma State realm right now is that we're not supposed to overlook Texas Tech this weekend. We got a road game in Lubbock at night. So, I mean, there's going to be tortillas flying everywhere. You know what I mean? So we're not supposed to overlook this game, but I'm not on the team and I'm not a coach. So I could probably overlook the game for now and say that I mean, yeah, there's probably a little more optimism this year and going into Bedlam than a normal year just because of the state of OU's situation. But for me personally, I mean, when you're just beaten down year after year after year, when
Oh.
you have that hope, because it's always at the end of the season. So when you have a good year, you're like, oh, maybe this is the year. When you just get crushed year after year after year by that team, it gets to a point where it's I mean, you're gonna watch no matter what,
Yeah.
but it's tough to go fully into my belief that we're gonna beat that team.
I didn't realize till you said it. I didn't look at the schedule that Texas Tech will host Oklahoma State. And that game's on Fox, by the way. It's going to have a national audience, 7 o'clock Saturday night on Fox from Lubbock. Texas Tech now 6-4, but 3-4 in the Big 12. Oklahoma State 9-1, 6-1 in the Big 12, and an opportunity to control their own destiny for the Big 12 championship game. Shannon, those broadcasters at Texas Tech who are suspended for one game, man, they're missing a good one, and I wonder who gets the call.
Yeah,
I'm assuming a couple of other people at the radios. That would be like Andy Everett getting suspended from UTSA football, and they go, well, who do we? Chris, Shannon, you guys want to do the UTSA? I guess they find somebody else at the radio station who they know can broadcast to go do that game.
I saw that the Texas Tech, I guess the men's basketball play-by-play guy tweeted out last night that he wished it weren't under these circumstances, but he's happy to fill in. I guess he got selected for this weekend's game.
So that means therefore it would be like Jay Howard. I know Jay Howard fills in for Andy Everett. Jay Howard, Shannon, was the longtime voice of the San Antonio Spurs before Bill Schoening.
Mm-hmm.
So darn it, if Andy is ever suspended for criticizing the refs,
we'd have to take out Howard too.
Yeah, we'd have to take out Jay Howard. We'd have to come on, Jay. So there's that. All right. So all right, Shannon, what else is going on? Oh, this is big. The Jets, not a coaching that hadn't happened yet, although Rex Ryan would like to see it. A quarterback change in New York for the New York Jets, and a familiar name who is now the starting quarterback for the New York Jets.
Joe Flacco, Joe
Fluco,
whatever you decide to call him. He reportedly going to get the start for the Jets after being Mr. I'm with the Philadelphia Eagles now, and I'm not going to be helpful at all. Goes back to the Jets, has he been there 2 weeks now?
That's a good question. Something like that. I'd have to check that to be sure.
He's going to get the go ahead this weekend against the Dolphins. So I guess if you're going to start one game, I feel like that's maybe the closest to easing it in as you can for a guy who hasn't been in that system for the past several weeks, given that he was with another team and he just came back to the Jets. But I don't know. It was also interesting yesterday. He announced that he was unvaccinated.
Oh, really?
But he just kind of left it at that.
Okay.
And he said, I don't want to get into the reasoning. I don't want it to be a distraction. He was wearing a mask during his press conference, so he's been following the rules. But that was just kind of interesting that we come off this.
And I give him credit for announcing it, and instead of saying, "Yeah, I'm immunized," and lying about it and not wearing a mask.
Let me be clear, right?
Yeah.
So that was a little interesting. And then the Panthers, we saw Cam Newton running in for a touchdown, exclaiming, I am back, taking off his helmet. Very excited to be back with his former team. Hearing word that he is likely to be the starter this weekend for the Panthers. I mean, what a crazy, has that ever happened in the league?
Well, and it was, I heard it was a week ago today that they signed him. So, and now he's the starter. That's crazy.
And then like the fact that he not even 2 years ago, he was on that team, goes away. And then he gets dropped and he's just kind of floating around. Oh, I want to play. And now he's back here. And I mean, he may turn into Superman all over again. Who knows? I mean, he's obviously not as healthy as he once was, but for a team that's really suffering, I mean, he could bring that fandom and that team a couple of wins that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. It's incredible. Yeah, and we get the Cam Fitz.
And what's juicy about this is it's the Washington football team. So it's Ron Rivera. It's the coach that didn't want him. It's Ron Rivera coming back to Charlotte. and it's Cam Newton waiting for him. Panthers are 5-5. Washington's 3-6.
Yeah.
So Cam Newton got to be a little bit of a grudge thing going on there.
He didn't want him once.
Yeah.
He didn't want him twice.
How you like me now, Ron Rivera? Let me hand you loss number 7. Let us hand you $1,000. We hope.
There you go.
It's 7:20. It's time once again. We do this on the 20s all day long, all the way into 9:20 tonight. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Somebody wins $1,000 every hour. It may as well be you. So throw your name in the hat. You're going to get a keyword and a place to text it right now. Grand, we hope you win. And Shannon, I was listening to the show before us, and I always got to make sure I get the name of the show right, because it's an unusual name. 2 Pros and a Cup of Joe.
There you go.
And the reason it's called that, it's LeVar Arrington, who was a pro. It's Brady Quinn, who was a pro. And a Cup of Joe, that would refer to Jonas Knox, who was the third guy and who did not play NFL football or professional sports, but is a broadcaster dude. But LeVar Arrington was making the point, if Cam Newton pulls this off and is successful, I mean, Cam Newton was an MVP. Cam Newton took that Panthers team to a Super Bowl. This is a big story in the NFL. And, you know, his big moment last week, getting into the end zone twice and screaming, "I'm back." I mean, you're right. You said that a minute ago, Shannon. Nobody's done this in a big way. Players have come back to their teams before, but they've been lesser players and they've come back in a lesser role. For him now to be the starter in their stadium, and I got to believe there are still a lot of people who are Cam Newton fans, who are Panthers fans, who will be in that stadium, who still have their number 1 jersey and are going to welcome him back. That's a big deal. His return like that. That's a big story in the NFL.
Yeah, and I would hope for Cam, because he's a guy that's generally pretty well liked and received, but every now and then he's done something right. I mean, he had a ton of endorsements. I forget exactly the situation he was in, but where he kind of lost everything, and I think that kind of upset him, obviously. And then he, was still kind of carrying himself around like, I am Superman, I am Cam Newton, treat me as such. So I would hope that he's come back this time around, given that he was on the Patriots, and then given that he wasn't on a team, and now he's back with his original team and potentially back in this starting role, that he's got some humility with him this time around to make it work on all fronts. I mean, we love, that's one of my favorite things, Cam Newton, when he scores, passing a ball to a kid. He's the one that, like, the NFL used to get so upset, right, when players did that. No, you can't do that. No, you. Now it's a thing a lot of people do, and he's very much a part of that. And the smile on those kids' faces, they're not tears. I have allergies. So I'm happy for him. And like I said, I just hope it all of the success and anything he's feeling good about can also happen off the field for him, within that locker room and within that Panther community.
And again, what I find fascinating here, he was not on this team until a week ago today. So he goes in, he played limited plays, but scores 2 quick touchdowns for them a week ago. But here he is this Sunday starting for them. And it's not like it's the same old Panthers offense under Ron Rivera, a new coach with Matt Rule. How do you, and I guess, I mean, he's got experience, but how do you learn enough plays in an NFL playbook with 10 other guys in that huddle who know the playbook, but you really, I mean, I wonder how much of this is going to be like, playing sandlot football, drawing up plays in the huddle, saying, dude, run an out pattern, I'll hit you over by the sticks or something like that. It's going to be, and how much of it, because Cam can do this, is going to be Cam dropping back and saying, give me the ball, I'll make something happen, I'll scramble, I'll run the ball. I wish, that's probably not a game that's going to be broadcast to us. It's not otherwise a marquee game, Panthers Washington football team, but I would be fascinated to watch that game. I want to see as much of that game as I can see.
Yeah. If it's on in our area, I'm definitely with you in checking that out. And like you said, wasn't one of the hits on him when he got to the Patriots was his kind of inability to grasp the playbook pretty quickly and take the time to actually learn it.
Yeah.
So many guys carry that playbook around like it's their wallet, don't want to lose it. Don't ever lose it. And that just didn't seem to be. So again, I think that goes back to what I was saying of like, do it differently this time around. Be the same athlete, but do it differently in a lot of the other aspects.
Wes Perkins on the live video feed saying Shane Falco did it. Cam's got this. I like the Shane Falco, the replacements, Keanu Reeves reference.
Okay, so that's not a real person because
no.
I was.
Shane Falco was played by Keanu Reeves in the movie The Replacements, like probably 20 years ago by now. That's an old movie, but a great movie. One of these days, and we did this, Shannon, before you were on the show. We did a 64 team bracket of the greatest sports movie ever, and The Replacements did go deep. Of course, my favorite movie is Field of Dreams. I think Major League was the winner. I'll have to go back and check it, but people change. And now that you're here, and I'm sure you've got movies you can lobby for, we'll probably have to do that again at some point.
Was The Rookie on the list?
The Rookie was on the list, but for whatever the reason, didn't go deep. The Rookie's a good movie.
Our good friend Hardball Harge, he's in that movie.
See, now when I saw it, I didn't know Harge. Now I got to go see it and look for Hardball Harge.
Yeah.
My goodness. Absolutely.
It was already my favorite movie, and now he's one of my bestest of friends.
Now wait a minute, time out, because I've heard you say it's my favorite movie, and I just figured that was giving Harge love when you say that. Mm-hmm. Was it your favorite movie before you met Harge and knew he was in the movie?
Yeah.
Wow.
Remember when DVD players and every every soccer mom vehicle was a thing?
Yeah.
It all just kind of hit at the right time. I was traveling for soccer. It was a great movie. It was also filmed, some of it in and around, Central Texas. And so I was like, oh, I know that place. I had no idea where they were, but I was like, oh, that's basically home. Look at it.
Yeah.
And then, I think the actor's name is escaping me.
Kevin
Dennis
Costner
Quaid was huge at the time. I just felt for whatever reason a connection to that movie. And then to learn Hard was in it, I was like, shut up. Get out of here.
Crazy.
Get out of here.
That would be like me meeting.
He's in the tryout scene. See if you can spot him.
That's like me meeting somebody from Field of Dreams, which is my favorite movie. So
I can get you his autograph.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid, J.D. Evermore, Rachel Griffiths. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that. One more quick update, and then we will bring the Salty Shakedown your way. Sports history and sports birthdays on the live video feed. Chris Gonzalez saying the Carson Wentz baby is on the episode of Hard Knocks. So last night's debut episode of in-season Hard Knocks Indianapolis Colts, you can see the Wentz baby on that episode.
And that baby was born the 16th. Man, they put those together quick.
Get that baby over here. We got a TV show to make. Wow. All right, coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Always enlightening, always provocative. It could change your life, hopefully for the better. Also, this day in sports history and sports birthdays. And yes, a huge 8 o'clock hour. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs on a Spurs game day / game night. Spurs in Minneapolis tonight to take on the Timberwolves. And Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics. And both of those guys being broadcasters, and Bill was the voice of the Longhorns. We got to ask them about the suspension of those Texas Tech broadcasters for criticizing the officials, calling out the officials' names, criticizing the Big 12 and Commissioner Bob Bowlesby. How do they feel about that suspension? We'll get into that as well. Jeremy making the show go. She's the salty one. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Little Eagles on the way out. Woo! Woo! John, that's not a bad idea. John says we need a 64 sport or sports anthems bracket. Wow, there's a question. Wes, was Carson Wentz's wife, was she induced to go into labor for the TV show? God, I hope not. Let me see. All right, I'm going to heat up some coffee because God knows I need it. I said it earlier in the show, but there's my Elvis t-shirt. Actually, this shirt was purchased at Graceland by one Steve DeRocco, who is a regular. So I got to thank the original Rock for that. So it's Throwback Thursday, so I'm wearing the Elvis t-shirt and, of course, the Beatles hat for Throwback Thursday. All right. Mike Taylor to sit in. Back in a sec.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Granger, offering supplies and solutions for every industry, with 24/7 support and experienced staff at over 250 local branches. Call quickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done. Bags under your eyes? That's just wait. And your concern can help. Shop the Black Friday sale and save up to $500 on top branded brands you'll love, like Sleepy's. But here's the mattress of your dreams with a free adjustable base with qualified purchase.
Inspired by State Farm's surprising great rates.
It's so cheap.
Like a movie, State Farm is there.
BC Powder knows life pushes us to the max. Work to the max. Family to the max. It can all mean pain to the max. So BC introduces new BC Max Strength. New BC Max relieves tough headaches and body pain at the speed of powder. Nothing stronger on pain without a prescription. Pain to the max. New BC Max. In a great tasting lemonade flavor.
Thank you, Mike Taylor. Rudy, good morning. Jason says, I started Yellow Jackets on Showtime. Female soccer team in a plane accident. And the girls go all Lord of the Flies. Interesting. Wow. Sounds like quite the plot. As most of you know, and it was a best-selling book called Alive. There was a men's soccer team. The plane crashed in the Andes in the snow. A number of them survived, and to survive, and they were there for days and days and days. The survivors had to eat those who did not live. That happened around 1972-ish. I'd have to look it up. Long time ago. But it was an amazing story, and it was a best-selling book, and it's just crazy. Rudy says favorite movie was Brian's Song. Brian's Song, Rudy, is very special. I love that movie. And again, as you probably know, when I first saw that, when it came, it was a movie of the week. It was an ABC movie of the week. And, a lot of people look at it now on video and assume it was in theaters. But that was, what a performance, both by James Caan and Billy D. Williams in Brian's Song. That was a great one.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Join in by...
Really big rings. UTSA Roadrunners keep winning, baby. So two things if they keep winning, well, either way, I'm going to bring up the Elvis thing, Shannon, with Jeff Traylor, who's becoming the Elvis of San Antonio. Just own it. Just white jumpsuit and do that on the sidelines. White jumpsuit, bell bottoms, a white cape. A lot of jewelry, studs, diamond, all kinds of stuff.
Should we go as far to see if he can give us an impersonation?
Ooh, and I'll
think
bet
he'd
you
subject himself to that.
I would have. We'll see if he does some Elvis.
I'd make that a promo so quickly.
Yes. Well, and I got a feeling. I don't know. We're getting to know Jeff Traylor over the course of the years. This is year number 2, and every Monday we talk to him. And we haven't. That's a great question for him next week. Music. I got a feeling, Shannon, he might be an Elvis fan. I got a feeling. Gilmer, Texas. I got a feeling he has in his life owned some Elvis CDs or albums of some kind. Just a theory. I could be wrong.
As long as you can back that theory up.
Yeah. Anyway,
talk to us.
There's that, Shannon, and the question I'm waiting until they go, if they go, please, 12-0 and are going to a bowl game or Conference USA Championship. The song was about really big rings. If you go undefeated, do you get rings? And I know, Shannon, you say you can't put national champions on those rings. All right, even if I grant you that, and I'll fight you on that, but even if I grant you that, you could get them rings that said, 12 and then 13 the conference and then 14 the bowl game. You could get them rings, and I think you should. And that's my point. At the very least, rings that say 14-0. If you win every stinking game and go 14-0, those UTSA Roadrunners, players especially, coaching staff certainly, but even Mr. Andy Everett should have a really big ring on his finger that says UTSA 14-0.
You don't want to just do regular season, because I don't think it's a coincidence that 12-0. You do some change up in the numbers there. 2-1-0.
2-1-0. Triangle of toughness. Ooh.
I'm always thinking.
Wow. Yeah, and again, it's like a pitcher with a no-hitter. You can't bring that up to Traylor yet, I don't think. I mean, you're Salty Sweeney. You can do whatever you want.
That's right.
But I don't think you bring up, hey, man, if you guys go 12-0, it's going to be like 2-1-0.
You can just start dropping seeds. Like, how do you feel about jewelry? Specifically
Yes.
rings.
There you go. Yeah. What do you think of the numbers that add up to 3 in a season? So, yeah, it's possible. All right. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Let's see. Benito Castaneda. No, we're not off the air. But on the live video feed, Benito Castaneda, are you guys off the air? Not able to get you on my Alexa. Unplug and then plug in your Alexa. Sometimes that works. I've noticed that most things, if you unplug them and plug them back in, often they start again. And that goes for human beings as well. Unplug yourself and then plug yourself back in. It works wonders. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, always edifying, enlightening, life-changing, earth-shattering. But first, sports birthdays and this day in sports history. On this day in 1949, and people should remember this, the National League batting leader won the National League Most Valuable Player. And that player's name was Jackie Robinson. So not only did Jackie Robinson break the color barrier, I think in 1947, 2 years earlier, Jackie Robinson then becomes the batting leader in the National League at 342. He hits 342, better than everybody in the league, and he's the National League Most Valuable Player. How cool is that? I mean, believe it or not, I wasn't alive. I'm an old man, but I wasn't alive for that. But I love that not only does Jackie Robinson break the color barrier, but he comes into baseball and kicks everybody's butt and is the best batter and the National League MVP. That is so cool.
Yeah, we were just talking sports movies. 42. It's a good one, too.
I mean, it would have been a great movie if he was an okay player. I mean, a great historical achievement. Just break the color barrier. If he was good, he was great. He was spectacular. I love that. This day in 1982, South Korean boxer Duk Koo Kim died of injuries sustained in a 14-round beating by Ray Mancini in Las Vegas. In the aftermath of his death, the WBC shortened title bouts to 12 rounds, and the WBA and WBO followed suit in 88 and the IBF in 89. If you wonder why boxing matches, you hear of these Ali Frazier matches that went 15 rounds. The reason they go 12 now is the death of South Korean boxer Duk Koo Kim, sustaining those injuries in just a brutal boxing match with Ray Mancini back in 1982. This day in 1997, Shannon, the Dallas Mavericks AC Green ties Randy Smith for an NBA record 906 consecutive games. Can you imagine that? Take that, Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard won't play in 9 consecutive games before load management. 906 consecutive games for AC Green. A lot of those with the Lakers, but set that record with the Mavericks. Way cool. That's your sports history. How about some sports birthdays? Born on this day in 1948, a infamous football player, Jack Tatum, who caused, we were talking about that horrible boxing match. Jack Tatum caused the paralysis of Darryl Stingley. Tatum played for the Raiders. It was a preseason game. Stingley for the Patriots. Stingley going over the middle. A vicious hit by Jack Tatum caused him to be paralyzed. He later, died many years later, did Darryl Stingley. Jack Tatum, born this day in Cherryville, North Carolina. I remember Jack Tatum wrote a book, They Call Me Assassin. Nice guy, Jack Tatum. Born on this day in 1956, Warren Moon, Pro Football Hall of Famer. We got to meet him in Canton in August. Houston Oilers, Seattle Seahawks, Minnesota Vikings, and won 5 Grey Cups in Edmonton. You talk about breaking the color barrier. Warren Moon, the NFL executives didn't want him playing quarterback coming out of the University of Washington because he was an African-American quarterback back in the 70s. How ridiculous. He showed them. He's in the Hall of Fame now. Born on this day in 1963, Len Bias, American basketball player, first round overall pick by the Celtics in 1986. He died a few days later of cocaine intoxication. An absolutely horrible story. Len Bias, born this day in 1963 in Landover, Maryland. Finally, Maryland, there's a D on the end of it. Finally, on this day in 1980, auto racer Denny Hamlin was born in Tampa, Florida. Denny Hamlin won the Daytona 500 in 2016, 2019, and 2020. Happy birthday to Denny Hamlin, Warren Moon, Len Bias, and Jack Tatum. Those are your sports birthdays and your sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, farm animals, pole assassins, and monkeys, it's that time, your Thursday Salty Shakedown.
All right, we're going to be in the NFL world for most of today, Chris. Starting things off with a look back at that Rams 49ers game from Monday night. Of course, the Rams ended up losing 31-10. We're not really sure what we have with the Rams at this very moment, even though they just added a guy like Von Miller and one Odell Beckham Jr. It turns out during the game, Matthew Stafford was not the only one throwing for the Rams. His wife, Kelly Stafford, in attendance, threw a soft pretzel chunk at a 49ers fan, Chris. She was called out on it via Instagram by a fan who was nearby saying, "Why did you throw a pretzel at a Niner fan sitting behind me? Show some class and support your husband and his new team with grace, please. I am a Rams fan and am embarrassed by your actions last night." Now, this isn't the first time we've ever seen Kelly Stafford in the news. She's not super controversial, but she isn't afraid to speak her mind, and a lot of people oftentimes have something to say when people like her speak her mind because they think, let the husband do the playing and you just sit there and you clap and cheer. She did respond saying, "Girl, I know I'm an idiot. He was saying a bunch of things that were aggressive towards our crew, but zero excuse. I tried to apologize, but in the end, I knew I was wrong. Will always stand up for my guy and everyone I love, but obviously I needed to do it completely different. I'm embarrassed too. Sorry you had to witness me in my weak moment." Chris, we all have weak moments, but this year has been crazy as far as fans in the stands fighting. And now we have wife of the starting quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams throwing soft pretzels at opposing fans. What say you?
First of all, bad move. Secondly, like Patrick Mahomes' woman, are they married, fiance or wife? She's really out there.
Yeah, the brother dumped some water on some fans at a game recently.
We may need a Real Housewives of the NFL quarterbacks reality show. But what you just read to me, though, for Kelly Stafford, a lot of people make a mistake, especially if you're rich, and she is, and used to having things go her way, and she does. Yeah, a lot of people go, "Well, so I did it. You asked for it." For her to have the presence of mind to say, "I blew it. I lost my mind a little bit. I apologize. You're right." I do credit her for having the self-awareness, apologizing, and owning it. So good for her in the aftermath of that. But she probably should have not lost her cool.
And what a waste of a soft pretzel.
Those are so good.
At the end of the day, that's where it is. All right. Earlier in the week, we found out Le'Veon Bell released from the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Coach Harbaugh has said part of that release was because guys who were injured were coming back and they needed a spot on the 53-man roster. He says Le'Veon can still play. So in the future, they may look to re-sign him should more injuries occur, and they do have an opening, but at the time it just was the right move. Looking at Twitter yesterday, I see Le'Veon Bell trending. I go to his profile, and what do I notice? He has changed his bio in his profile. And a lot of guys do that, specifically sports guys, when they move from one team to another. We've talked about Carlos Correa removing all mentions of Astros in his bio. So I want to read the bio for Le'Veon Bell as I saw it yesterday. Took a screenshot. I won't keep saying hashtag. Just know that all of these are hashtags until I say otherwise.
Okay.
Washed, fell off, slow, bad rapper, wasted talent, clown, greedy, let down, old, overrated, and then no more hashtags, ends it with anything else I'm forgetting. He did this after he posted "This hurts, but it's been a blessing to be here, to say the least," in a post thanking that organization in the Baltimore Ravens. Is he taking this hard, or is he taking this as kind of like, okay, I get it. I'm in on the joke. I'd rather be playing. I'm not sure if he's really hurting or if he's like, this is just where my career is right now. What do you take from that and all of the hashtags used here?
That's a great question. It could be so many things, Shannon, and it could also be, I mean, obviously those are criticisms other people have been heaping on him, but he could be using it for motivation to try to come back. You know, you suck, you're washed up, you're old, you're an idiot, you're greedy. I mean, so I mean, but you're right. He could be in a dark moment and doing it, or he could be having fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to have to see what his next moves are to try to get a window into what that's all about.
Well, like I said, Harbaugh said, look, he can still play. Just for our roster right now, we were getting guys back that were injured, and we needed those pieces back more than we needed the running back in Le'Veon Bell. But they are willing to bring him back on should a space open. All right, finally today, Chris, I want to start with some personal news. Today will be my last day doing the show.
No!
In this South Congress studio.
You scared me there.
Because I am
that was a little
AM 1300 The Zone is the last station to be flipped. I believe it's getting flipped tonight. It doesn't mean anything for listeners other than we may have some technical difficulties tomorrow. I'm really hoping we don't. But
yeah, Jeremy, I hope you got a lot of words tomorrow if Shannon for some reason can't find a microphone.
I am so sure we will be connected.
Yes.
The video part may take some time, but officially moving to the new station, new studios. It's a better location for me. It's half the time. I'm really excited. I've been there a couple times this week. It's beautiful. I'm excited for the change. There's going to be lots of opportunities for me to learn all of the new equipment, all the cool things we can do. I think, Chris, for you and I, the show, we've continued to grow. We're almost at our 1-year anniversary.
Yes.
I don't know what I get you for that. I guess I just get you better digs for myself because I'll be a little bit more set up like you are. And I think it's just going to help us expand and get better and better. So thanks to all those who listen to the numerous struggles we've had while dealing with my closet size studio and old fashioned equipment as we've done this from the Penfield studios, but officially moving to the 360 Bridge. Over by Pennybacker Bridge is our new spot. So I'm very much looking forward to it. But today, I've been told tomorrow morning I go to the new studio.
That should be interesting.
So we will sign off for the final time from iHeart Austin on South Congress today.
And I got to ask you, because we did that a couple of years ago. There was a location over off I-10 in Vance Jackson. Forever is where Clear Channel was, and then iHeart and WOAI and the ticket. And I must admit to you, Shannon, when I walked out of that building for the last time and I took a little picture walking out of that, I felt a little emotional. I had a lot of memories in that building. There were some people like Andrew Ashwood, the first guy to hire me into radio, who's no longer living. There were people I knew who are no longer with us. I got a little misty-eyed walking out of the building for the last time. Will you, Shannon Salty Sweeney, tough as you are, get a little emotional walking out of that building today?
You know, this is Brian Gann has been with me. I mean, he's the first person I met in this building, and so it's kind of been a treat to have him in as much as we have. I know he's got better things to do, but I've enjoyed having him around. He's who helped me transition from part-time to full-time. So the bigger picture of the people I work with, they're still there, right? So it's not like I'm really leaving.
Yeah.
And then also we've known about this move for a while. And we were told that Tuesday would be the move. So I left here Monday or Tuesday after Tuesday morning show thinking, that's it.
Yep.
Did the same thing on Wednesday. That's it. Today I know that this is it. I'm excited. I'm not a person who generally loves change, but this one's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Again, the offices are beautiful, much closer to me. I'll get that much more sleep, Chris, like 5-10 minutes more sleep in the morning. That goes a long way when you get up when we do. That's it. Today's Salty Shakedown.
Sentimental and very, very cool Salty Shakedown. And kudos to not only you, Shannon, but everybody at iHeartRadio in Austin for upgrading into the sparkling, shiny new building with incredible new equipment.
Oh, yeah.
And
you have to come check it out.
Yes, I will. And a whole new era for iHeartRadio in Austin. Of course, we benefit between Austin, San Antonio, and all parts in between and around by sharing the airwaves here. Quick break. Bill Schoening, the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, and Andy Everett of the UTSA Roadrunners in the 8 o'clock hour next. Woo. One more hour. Oh, I got to mail my spots that I recorded. Let's find that. So this goes to oh, that's loud.
Whether you're spending on the essentials or splurging on care, do so with Discover. Because Zone Discover automatically matches all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year. When it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes. Learn more at discover.com/cash. Limitations apply. 2021. Listen.
Bags under your eyes? That's Jump Sleep, and Mattress Firm can help. Shop the Black Friday sale and save up to $500 on top-rated brands you'll love, like Sleepy's. Plus, pair the mattress of your dreams with a free adjustable base with qualifying purchase.
BC Powder knows life pushes us to the max. Work to the max. Family to the max. It can all mean pain to the max. So BC introduces new BC Max Strength. New BC Max relieves tough headaches and body pain at the speed of powder. Nothing stronger on pain without a prescription. Pain to the max. New BC Max. In a great tasting lemonade flavor.
Bill Schoening joining us next. The voice of the San Antonio Spurs. All right, this is not good. See if this is what I think it is. Yeah, Jason Paniagua says, can't wait for the Beatles documentary. Me too. I think it's the 25th, right? 1 week from today, Thanksgiving Day. I can't believe Thanksgiving is a week from today either. Where did this year go? Okay, good. I got what I'm looking for.
For the ones who get going when the going gets tough, and the ones who know we're tougher together. For the pathfinders breaking new ground, Granger offers supplies and solutions for every industry, as well as people depending on it. So you always depend on
I don't know
us.
if I need to do anything special to the phone to call Bill. Because I put the number and it says your call cannot be.
Well, I don't know. Let me go. Let's go look for.
I just saw Brian, but then he
left. Okay.
no, we could do that. Okay, let me go look for your call.
All right, we're good. Yeah, Rudy, I saw that about Justin Verlander. We talked about it a little earlier in the show. I hope Justin is 38 now. Got to figure out when his birthday is. Yeah, hopefully. Again, though, if there's anybody who has the skill set to still figure out how to pitch at a high level, and apparently he looks very, very good in, he workouts for people. Here we go. Let's see. Here we come. 1 week from today, Thanksgiving and the Beatles documentary. Jason, that is going to be so cool.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is a Throwback Thursday. It is a football Thursday. NFL football tonight. College football. All kinds of, there's high school football. There's high school playoff football. And there's basketball. There's Spurs basketball. The Spurs are on the road. It is a Spurs game night. In a moment, we'll speak with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, but we'll give you a programming note for this hour as well. Just after the bottom of the hour, we'll talk UTSA football. They are 10-0 every day. More national media outlets are either talking about or talking with Jeff Traylor, their head coach, or one of the players like Sincere McCormick. Mr. Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics, going to join us just after 8:30. But right now, let's talk not only NBA basketball, but I want to talk football, and we want to talk broadcasting with the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, longtime voice before that of the Texas Longhorns, the one and only Mr. Bill Schoening. Bill, how are you doing this morning?
Very good, Chris. Weird to be with you on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday, but I appreciate the fact that you were thoughtful enough to give me Wednesday off, since Tuesday night was one of those late night West Coast games, and the game didn't get over until after midnight, right? So we didn't tip till 9:40. So it was a long night the other night.
Yeah, well, and I'm a big fan of sleep, and I appreciate it. And there was absolutely no need to deprive you of any more sleep, Bill. Bill, I want to start with you. I don't know if you know about this story. You might, and if you don't, we'll walk you through it. But have you heard the story about the two Texas Tech football broadcasters who have been suspended for a game by Bob Bowlesby in the Big 12?
No, you'll have to take me through this one, Chris. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, this is like a big story this morning, and it broke overnight. And so here's the basic story, Bill. Texas Tech is playing Iowa State last Saturday, and their two radio announcers, kind of in the same way that, you used to broadcast along with Craig Way when you did Texas Longhorn games, which is why Shannon and I want to ask you about this. But they're play-by-play guys. The host is Brian Jensen, and the analyst is John Harris. And there were calls that looked very, very questionable going against Texas Tech and going for Iowa State. And let me read you some of the quotes by the broadcasters. Harris said, quote, "I'll say it right now. The Big 12 does not want Iowa State to lose this game." And then he said, "Yeah, Bob Bowlesby, you need to answer for this. This is ridiculous. The inconsistency of this referee crew is in favor of Iowa State. It is unbelievable." And then one of them says, "The Big 12 should be embarrassed. The Big 12 should be embarrassed with this group. We've only pointed out two of the officials. Let me read you the names of all of them on the field." And then they went on to read the names of the officials on the field, Bill. So Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, said that these broadcasters violated Big 12 policies for criticizing officials in public, that these broadcasters are employed by the university. So he has suspended them for one game. They cannot broadcast the Texas Tech versus Oklahoma State game at Lubbock this week. I know you're hearing all of this for the first time, but you've, as a longtime broadcaster, and I hear you sometimes, you see a referee make a call and you find it questionable and you'll say so. But I mean, to call out to say the Big 12 doesn't want Texas Tech to win the game, that they're in the tank for Iowa State, and then to call out Bob Bowlesby by name and then to read the names of the officials, I kind of feel they went a little bit too far. I wanted to get your thoughts on all that.
Yeah, I think from time to time, second guessing an official's call, that's part of the game. I personally don't like to hear announcers constantly harp on officiating because I don't think it does your team any good. And I don't think it does the broadcast any good because the game is still going on. And that seemed like they maybe went a little too far, especially reading all the names of the officials. Why didn't they get their home phone numbers as well?
Yeah.
So I think that I understand Commissioner Bowlesby suspending these guys for a game. Again, I'm just hearing this story for the first time, so I don't know all the background. I know Brian Jensen. I know John Harris. They're both pretty good announcers, and I've heard their work before. John's been part of the Tech broadcast for years, so has Brian. But I think that maybe the frustration level was high, perhaps, and they let that kind of seep out over the air. You got to really be careful with that. So that's unfortunate. From time to time, an official's going to miss the call. I'll tell you what really happened, helps me in terms of the way I deal with officials. Back in the early 80s, when I was way out in West Texas, cutting my teeth in the broadcast business, I had the chance to work as an umpire during a Babe Ruth season. I worked home plate, I worked the bases, and I played high school baseball. I knew the game very well. But I didn't realize how difficult that job was, calling balls and strikes and being an umpire. And I had a newfound appreciation for how difficult it is to make calls. And I think from that moment on, you know what, I'm going to cut these guys a little slack. This is not an easy job, especially when you're dealing at that time, I was dealing with high school sports. So, these guys weren't getting paid a lot of money. A lot of them were either volunteers, the Babe Ruth League level or whatever. So I think that gave me a little bit more leeway to let these guys, make an occasional mistake. If a blatant mistake is made, I'll point it out. That ball should have gone to the Spurs. And as I always point out too, Chris, as you know this, because you've been working with me for so many years, I tend to see the world through silver and black glasses. I'm going to look at the game, from the Spurs perspective rather than the opponent's perspective. But I try to be objective as I can be. But I think this time, perhaps, those guys went one step too far.
Bill, want to flashback to last week before we talk about tonight's Spurs game. Are you still riding the high of meeting me or dealing with the disappointment?
I have not gotten over it yet, to be honest with you, Shannon. It's just something that stayed with me through the entire evening. I was just one of those, I was on cloud nine, long time. I felt bad that I didn't have enough time to really spend any time with you because we were already on the air. I didn't know how long Chris was going to go in a particular segment. Chris tends to go a little long on occasion.
I'm a little long-winded.
Hey, you know what? Being a studio host, being long-winded is a good thing. It actually is. So I'll never tell you to cut a segment short, Chris, unless we're ready to go back into the game. But it was very nice of Shannon to stop by. She was not wearing any Mavericks gear.
Good.
So I think she was wearing some Luka Doncic sunglasses, though. I'm not sure on that. She likes Luka a lot. But no, it was great to meet you, Shannon, and it was a thrill for me too. Believe me.
You were very sneaky with the picture. I got back to my seat to view said picture and realized you positioned us just in front of all those 5 championship banners. You could see very clearly behind us.
Every time somebody comes up to visit me in my broadcast location, I said, let's get a view of the court. I say the court, but I want those 5
He did say that.
banners. And they were pointing right down at you, I think. So I believe. So just making sure that you got those in the picture.
Voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening, with us just days after having a close encounter and meeting Shannon Salty Sweeney for the first time. Bill, back to the Spurs. Tough loss, obviously, before tonight's game at Minneapolis. Spurs were at Staples Center, a couple of games in LA, lost to the Lakers, had a day off, and then lost to the Clippers in a game where, once again, Bill, they were right there. It was tied with 4:22 to play before in the third quarter, before the Clippers went on that 18-4 run to close out the third quarter. And you talked about it with an assistant coach after the game. If the Spurs could find a way not to go through some of these cold spells, like they have a few times lately, I mean, there for a large chunk of the game. They're right there, but they let that one slip away as well. How do you see tonight's game? Minnesota coming in. They played last night. They got a rare home back-to-back. They beat the Sacramento Kings last night. So Spurs, from a rest standpoint, might have an advantage there. But how do you see tonight's game?
Well, they've got three really good guards. They run a three-guard offense, Minnesota. And Andy Everett, of course, the former number 1 pick overall, is the guy that leads the way. Patrick Beverly is a real scrappy guy, very, very good defender. And D'Angelo Russell's a guy who can score. He's a lefty, he can step outside and shoot it. And he's got a lot of different variety to his game. So I think perimeter defense will be important on those three guys. Of course, they also have Karl Anthony Towns. This is another one of those games where the Spurs are going to miss Jakob Poeltl. Tonight will be Jakob's 8th game in a row to miss. He went on this road trip. They were hoping to get him back at some point during the trip, but he's listed as out for tonight's ball game. So that certainly has hurt. In fact, we visited with Mitch Johnson about that, and the other night, assistant coach for the Spurs, in our post-game visit about how much the Spurs defensively are really missing Jakob. Plus, Jakob was averaging 14 points and 10 rebounds, and I think 3 assists per game. So he was helping with that high post passing game. So they miss him in a variety of ways. In fact, Pop was saying that DeJounte Murray and Jakob have been their 2 most consistent performers this season. So they miss him. But you're right, on these lulls, these last 3 games, this 3-game losing streak with Dallas, the Lakers, and the Clippers, in each of those games, the Spurs have allowed the opponent to go on a long run, which really flipped the game. And I'm not going to say it put the game out of reach, but it made it much more difficult for the Spurs to come back, because now you're talking late third quarter the other night, for instance, against the Clippers. You mentioned that 18-4 run. Well, now you go into the fourth quarter down 12. It's a whole different deal. Instead of going down 2 or down 3, now you're going down 12, and you got to climb that mountain early in the fourth quarter. They couldn't quite get over the hump, and that's been one of the issues, is these scoring droughts. I think they went 5 minutes with 1 bucket late in the third quarter the other night.
3-game losing streak for the Spurs. They set at 4-10 on the season. As we mentioned, they play the 5-9 Timberwolves tonight. Looking ahead, after this Timberwolves game, they have the Suns, the Hawks, the Celtics, and the Wizards. Some pretty top-tier teams to start the season. How important is a win and for tonight, especially against a 5-9 team, just mentally, for a team like the Spurs that may struggle when they meet some of these other guys they're playing pretty well so far?
Finish this road trip on a win, because now they have a little bit of a break. They don't play again until Monday, as you mentioned, and they've got a homestand coming up. So I'm sure that there's some things they'd like to fine tune, especially at the defensive end, but offensively as well. It was good to see Derek White have a good ball game the other night, because he's been struggling with his shot. So, yeah, there are some things to be encouraged about. We talked about the fact that they're sharing the ball very well. They're doing some little things very well, but they're having these droughts that are really hurting them right now, where they'll go a 4 or 5 minute stretch with only 1 field goal or with some turnovers. That really kind of fuels the other team's fast break. And that's the other thing the Spurs have done pretty well this year, is force turnovers, and they need to do that. There was that Dallas game where I think the Mavericks only had 1 turnover the entire first half. So the Spurs couldn't fuel their fast break. They couldn't get the fast break points going. They are in the top 10 in fast break points going into the game against the Clippers the other night. So it's a situation where, all these things have to come together, and one day it will. I mean, I think I am very confident that this team is going to kind of turn the page a little bit, and as Pop likes to say, the worm will turn, and all these things will come together. The good thing is they've got very good leadership from DeJounte Murray. And once they get Jakob Poeltl back, the defense will be set a little bit more. They'll be able to guard the interior perhaps a little bit better. And they're staying positive. They're staying enthusiastic. They're staying energetic. It's a young team, and they're doing their best to try to, keep that positive energy going and not let the losses get them down.
He's the voice of the San Antonio Spurs, Bill Schoening. More with Bill in just a moment, but now as we approach 8:20, we do this on the 20s all day and all the way up until 9:20 tonight. Every hour, your chance to win $1,000. Somebody wins $1,000 every hour. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Here it is.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword Bill to 200-200. You'll get the confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's Bills to 200-200.
Bills is the key word, which is kind of appropriate as we're talking with Bill Schoening, the voice of the Spurs. Bill, you brought up DeJounte Murray, And DeJounte had a great night against the Clippers. He often has a great night. Nearly had a triple-double, 26 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. And as I look at his overall numbers for the season, Bill, DeJounte Murray, 19 points per game, just over 8 rebounds, just over 8 assists per game. Somebody brought up on Spurs React after the game, DeJounte Murray, there are fans who believe he should be an all-star this year. I know we're only 14 games into the season, but as you watch the play of DeJounte Murray really taking it upon himself to be a leader on this Spurs team, can you see DeJounte Murray maybe making the NBA All-Star game this year?
I think he's deserving. I really do. The way he has played this year and the way he has led this team, they don't have a lot of wins yet, but I think that just the inspiration that he's giving his teammates, the fact that it's not just during the season. I mean, he was in the gym all summer long. I remember he came off that devastating injury in the 18-19 season with the ACL, and he's had to fight his way all the way back from that devastating injury. So I think he deserves every consideration for that. But, the cool thing is that he doesn't care. Whenever anybody brings up all-star game or accolades or anything like that, he says, look, I just want to win. And the most important thing to DeJounte Murray is, he said, turning L's into W's. And that's the way he feels about it. And even though he's having a good individual year, it really means nothing to him at all unless they start winning ball games.
Bill, in preparation for today, I saw the story that George the Iceman Gervin is going to have his own documentary. It's currently in the works. He, of course, was courtside for that Mavericks game last Friday night. It was awesome to see him in the house. How do you think this one will stack up? Because they said it that after they got the inspiration following that 10-part episode of The Last Dance, of course, following Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. How do you think his career will look, and what kind of insight do you hope we get out of this?
There's going to be a lot of great stories that come out of that. Because Ice is just such a great guy, very humble beginnings in Detroit. So I'm sure there'll be in the documentary, some documentation of what happened early in his life that wasn't easy. And then his time at Eastern Michigan, and then, of course, off to the ABA. And Chris probably knows the story better than I do about how the Spurs were trying to get him from the Virginia Squires. Remember the story, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
They kind of hid him out for a while to try to keep him away from the Virginia people. The other people who were trying to get their claws on George the Iceman Gervin, and the Spurs tried to sequester him and hide him away. So I'm sure that story will be in there. Chris, enlighten me on that whole episode there, because I know that right before he joined the Spurs, there was some cloak and dagger stuff going on.
Yeah, there exactly as you described, Bill. The Spurs wanted him from Virginia. Gervin wanted to come, and I believe ultimately it was an outright cash purchase. The Spurs and Angelo Drosis, one of the big owners of the Spurs, wound up giving, I forget what the number was, and I remember it was in January of 1974. Spurs began that season in October of 1973, their first season with San Antonio. So technically, while Gervin played in season number 1, he didn't play as a Spur until January of 1974. So yeah, there was a lot of question as to whether or not the Spurs would pull the deal off, and there was some hiding in hotel rooms. And one of the things that I love, though, Bill, that a lot of people don't realize, the Virginia Squires, who, as you bring them up, Bill, unless you know your ABA history, most people don't remember the Virginia Squires, but there was a time when the Virginia Squires not only had George Gervin on that team, they had Dr. J. Julius Erving. I think to myself, what if the Virginia Squires found a way to keep Gervin and keep Dr. J? Would Virginia now be in the NBA? And if the Spurs don't get Gervin and the team doesn't take off like it did with Gervin and Silas and all of those Spurs, you got to wonder if the Spurs themselves even get into the NBA if they don't do that deal for Gervin in January of 1974.
There's so many cool things about the old ABA, and that book by Terry Pluto, Loose Balls, right, is the name of it. And I would recommend that to anybody that likes humor, likes basketball, likes basketball history. Just so many stories about Fly Williams and Marvin Bad News Barnes, George the Iceman Gervin, and all the wild things that were happening back in the ABA in the 70s. So I'm sure that some of those ABA stories will be in this documentary about George the Iceman Gervin. But yeah, good memory, Chris. I'm happy that you remember all those details because, I was in Philadelphia at the time pulling for the 76ers with George McGinnis, who, of course, also with the Indiana Pacers, and, of course, Dr. J, who had come over from the New York Nets. So, of course, the Nets, the Pacers, the Nuggets, and the Spurs, the four teams that went from the ABA to the NBA.
Yeah, and that season number 1, the Spurs would play those Pacers and George McGinnis and lose to them in the playoffs in season 1. So George McGinnis was kind of a bad guy. One quick question before we go, Bill. I got a question from John Williams on the live video feed. He wants to know how you feel about the new name of the Staples Center beginning on Christmas Day. We will call it the Crypto.com Arena. Any thoughts on that?
The Crypto.com Arena, yes. Chris, as you know, I am always about a day late and a dollar short when it comes to changing the name of the arena. When Conseco Fieldhouse became Bankers Life Fieldhouse, I think I called it Conseco for 2 more years. I'm going to have to put a note in front of me to put crypto in front of me to make sure I don't call Staples Center anymore because it's been Staples Center for so long. So sometimes it takes this old dog a while to learn new tricks. But I'll be ready to go with crypto as long as I have it right in front of me. But to me, it's still Staples Center, because to me, Staples Center is Jack Nicholson, it's John McEnroe, it's all the different celebrities. Diane Cannon's there all the time. You see these Denzel Washington. That's Staples Center to me, seeing all the celebrities courtside for the Lakers and the Clippers.
It's the house that Kobe built.
The house that Kobe built, absolutely. Now, we'll do a whole show sometime or a whole segment on Kobe because, Kobe's dad, Joe Bryant, went to John Bartram High School in Southwest Philly, 3 blocks from my house.
Wow.
High school that produced Earl of Pearl Monroe.
Oh.
And the soul singer Patti LaBelle.
My goodness.
We'll do a whole segment on the people that came out of my neighborhood, including W.C. Fields, as a matter of fact. So we had a pretty cool neighborhood back there in Philly. So, a lot of cool things. Will Smith from Overbrook, Malik Rose. The list goes on and on about people that came from my section.
We absolutely have to do that, Bill, and we will. Bill will have the call tonight. Spurs in Minneapolis to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. 7:00 start, so Spurs radio game night with Bill on 1200 WOAI and the Spurs Radio Network, 6:30 tonight. Bill, outstanding as always, sir. We will see you on the radio tonight.
And thanks, Chris, for pushing me back to Thursday. I appreciate that. I enjoyed the sleep yesterday.
Well, we're thrilled to have you any day of the week, Bill. Thank you so much. Bill Schoening will have the call tonight. We'll be on board on the radio with him tonight for the Spurs contest. Coming up, we go from basketball to football. The UTSA Roadrunners, the voice of the Roadrunners, Andy Everett, is next on the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, John, I do remember that. And Kobe Dietrich found his way over there as well. Bill Brendel, 1 week from today, I am counting the days till the Beatles documentary. I will be locked in. I believe they're releasing it on 3 nights. It's 3 parts. So I think Thanksgiving night, part 1. I believe the second part will be released Friday and the third part Saturday on Disney Plus. I think that's how they're doing it. But yeah, I'm going to be in heaven. I can't wait. All right. My iced tea is out of ice, so I need some ice. Yeah, Bill, that film was, as you know, in a vault. There was a great 60 Minutes piece this past week on Peter Jackson, the filmmaker. So, yeah, and the previews we've seen, that film just looks pristine. It looks like, it's amazing. It looks like it was just shot yesterday. And, here they are, the Beatles in their, roughly like 30 years old doing their thing. It's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see it. And Bill, I saw you comment on our San Antonio polar bear video the other day. We're still We want to enshrine you as a San Antonio polar bear. We've had that discussion. Gonna ask Andy, and there's so much to talk about UTSA. I don't know. I don't know if Andy, like Bill, knows that story on the Texas Tech broadcasters being suspended by Bob Bowlesby. And there's so much to talk about UTSA. I don't know that we're going to get to it with Andy or not. Well, probably. So I'm going to text him here if I get a chance and just see if he is aware of the story. Jason says, about to join a meeting and our CEOs playing with a little help from my friends. Beautiful. And not only do I love the Beatles version from the Sgt. Pepper album, but obviously Joe Cocker totally nailed that song as a cover at Woodstock. Andy is aware of the Texas Tech story, and Jeremy is calling him right now for this segment. Yes. Cool, man. Thank you. Yeah, like a minute out. Just start bringing it in like a minute out. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question because I've done stuff like that before. What we used to do, when I was at KTSA, we would play that song and we would back time it so it would end, at the moment we went off the air. So it was kind of choreographed that way. So that's a great question. But yeah, it's any way you want to do it. Yeah, and Axel J. Miller, you bring up Gervin when he was with the Chicago Bulls during Jordan's rookie year. In The Last Dance, Jordan tells that story of walking into that hotel room and all of those Bulls players were partying and there was cocaine, and that cannot have been a pretty moment for a lot of those guys now, all those years later with their families and probably grandkids now. Going, yeah, everybody else did, but not me. I was in that hotel room, but I wasn't snorting any cocaine. Yeah, Dave Corzine was in that trade. Yeah, Kobe Dietrich went, I think, for a season or two to the Chicago Bulls. It was crazy. So here comes Andy Everett.
Let's get back to the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. Find Chris and Salty on Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeney.
Welcome in. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. We love talking UTSA football, and we love talking UTSA football with Andy Everett. And Andy Everett joins us now. Andy, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. About 48 hours plus away from the biggest game in UTSA history.
And Andy, I heard you say that last night on the Jeff Traylor show. And when you said that, I tweeted that out because I think that's a heck of a statement. And you have called every game in UTSA history. Describe for us why Saturday at the Alamo Dome 2:30 is the biggest game in UTSA history.
Well, the one thing UTSA has never done is win a conference championship, and they have the opportunity to do that. Now, mathematically, they could lose this game on Saturday, beat North Texas, and UTEP could beat UAB in the final week and still get in. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think UAB is going to beat UTEP no matter whether they beat UTSA or not. So I think you have to take care of business in this game, and that automatically gives you the Western Division crown, regardless of what you do against North Texas next week. Even though obviously undefeated and ranking points and all that kind of stuff will still be on the line. But to play for your conference championship is what every coach wants to do. And in order for UTSA to get there, they're going to have to beat UAB. And to be able to say that you're in line to win a conference championship in your 11th year of existence, I'm not sure that's been done before. I haven't looked back to see what the history of that is. But that's a pretty high level for this program to elevate itself to if it can get there with a win on Saturday.
Andy, you, of course, have been calling every game for this UTSA football program. They started the season going 1-0, then it was 2-0, then it was 3-0. It seems each week the crowd increases. Tell us about that crowd increase just from the first game and to what you're expecting this weekend and to what could be a conference championship ceiling type of game.
I think one of the things that Conference USA has as a disadvantage to it is that it's so spread out. There's not a lot of close-knit rivalries, and Rice and UTEP haven't been very good lately, so those are probably the two closest rivalries. I think when you look at the Big 12 and other leagues, Baylor's going to play Texas Tech, and Texas is going to play Baylor, and everybody's kind of together. And so you have these natural built-in rivalries that attract fans from both teams to go to those games. And Conference USA has not had that. Then you lock that onto the top that UTSA hasn't had this kind of success yet. And so it took a while for people to kind of jump on the bandwagon, and now they are. And the fact that there was 30,000 plus in the dome last Saturday, I think, there's a lot of times people, for whatever reason, can't go to every game. We look at the 80,000 to 100,000 that go to DKR or to Kyle Field or to wherever, and those people that are going to those games have done that traditionally for 100 years to their families. UTSA hasn't had that tradition where it's a thing to go to the UTSA football game every week. That's what Jeff Traylor's trying to build. But the 30,000 that were in that building last week were awesome. The students, the band, and the city of San Antonio. And Jeff said last night, I've got a second triangle. The students, the band, and the city of San Antonio are the other triangle of toughness. And they knew when to yell, they knew when to cheer, they knew when to be quiet so the guys could hear the snap count. And they were awesome last week. So if they can all bring a friend and we could put 60 in there, that would be great. But if only a third of them bring a friend, now all of a sudden you got 40, and that would be a good thing too.
I'm starting to think that Coach Traylor loves geometry with all of this triangle business we have going on. UTSA fans, of course, with the excitement of the team and their ranking and everything historical that's happened thus far this season, there was a big push to try and get College Game Day to come to town for this one, given the conference title that could be on the line here. Unfortunately, they're going to the Ohio State versus Michigan State game. So your plea to UTSA fans or just citizens of San Antonio and the surrounding area to come watch this specific game on Saturday afternoon.
Football, you should come. I think if you like San Antonio and you're looking for a team to cheer for, you should come. I don't think you should drop your fandom of any other team, except for the fact that UTSA is going to play Texas every other year starting next year for 5 years and a couple of times against A&M in the future. You don't have to necessarily not be a fan of A&M or Texas in order to be a fan of UTSA. I can go back. I wasn't here in the 70s when the Spurs were a fledgling franchise, but the city of San Antonio jumped on that bandwagon. And they had really good years in the late 70s, early 80s. They had some lean years before David Robinson got here. But the fever of this town for years has been the San Antonio Spurs. So why can't you include the UTSA into that? If you can afford season tickets to the Spurs, you can afford season tickets to UTSA. If you can afford one game a year to the Spurs, you can afford to go to one game a year for UTSA. And if you're a football fan, you've got a group of people there's 30 San Antonio players on this roster. There's a total of about 88, I think, Texas players on this roster. So you've got a built-in fan base and a great team to cheer for. So if you like football and whether you got something to do on Saturday or not, they can wait till Sunday to come watch the game.
He's the voice of the UTSA Roadrunners, Andy Everett. Andy, Jeremy passing along to us that UTSA quarterback Frank Harris tweeted out about an hour ago that he will be back next season. Is this news to you? Was this expected? What does this mean for the UTSA Roadrunners?
Well, yes, it is news, and it is good news because, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for Frank Harris, but I think one of the things that is on all those senior rosters, all those people that have a chance to come back, and they're not going to say it because it would violate every culture pillar in the world, but I think they all want to play Texas next year at DKR. I think that's going to be a big day for UTSA, and hopefully they're 2-0 going into that game. But if to have a 6-year quarterback in your program, I don't care whether you're Alabama or UTSA or anyone in between, that's huge. And I'm glad that he's wanting to do that. He's probably not ready for the NFL if he is an NFL player. And to be able to come back, probably finish his master's degree in that time as well. That's great news for UTSA because they know who their quarterback is.
Andy, as the football season winds down, basketball picks up. UTSA basketball last night wins in a comeback fashion. What can you tell us about that game and this Roadrunners team?
Well, I think the first thing people are going to have to do is be very patient with this year's class. I think they've got a lot of very good players. But you have to remember that for 4 years, the ball was in the hands of Javon Jackson or New Orleans about 98% of the time. and they scored over half the points that this team has scored in that 4-year stretch. They were 9 points away from being the greatest tandem in the history of the NCAA. They almost broke a record that Duke has held since 1983. And had they been able to play the games in Charlotte that got snowed out last year, they would have broken that record. So there's a lot of people trying to figure out who's going to score. And if you can get 3 or 4 guys to get you 60 points, and the other 6 or 7, or probably 5 or maybe 6 in the rotation can combine for 25, that should win some games. They got to figure out where that scoring is going to come from. They did not play very well Monday against Texas A&M Commerce and got hit the buzzer. They did come back and win 2 games, and they've got a game Sunday afternoon with Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So I think by the time the conference season goes around, this will be a better team, but so will everybody else in the conference. And there's going to be some growing pains with this team until they figure out their offensive end. Defensively, I think they're going to be really good. But in this day and age of basketball, the way the game is played, the way the game is called, cannot just rely on your defense. You got to score and you got to get threes.
All right, Andy, I got to get your take on this as the voice of UTSA athletics and calling football games. You, Jay Riley, Pat Evans do such a great job. You're not only informative, you guys are entertaining. You make these games. I've had a lot of people say, and I've felt it as well. You guys bring a level of not only knowledge, but humor to the microphones during the football games that I really enjoy. As you know, Texas Tech's play-by-play host Brian Jensen and analyst John Harris during the Iowa State game saying that the Big 12 does not want Texas Tech to win. They want Iowa State. They call out Commissioner Bob Bowlesby by name, saying, what do you have to say? You're going to have to answer for this. And then they start reading out the names of every official on the field, which to me was really, of all of these things, it was just kind of jaw-dropping for me, the way they did it. You're in this position every week. You're calling games. You see some calls you disagree with. Your reaction to what they did, and then yesterday, last night, Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby suspends them for 1 game. This weekend, Texas Tech hosting Oklahoma State. They cannot call that game. Your thoughts on what went down at Texas Tech?
Well, I don't know that the Big 12, I've never seen a conference suspend a broadcast crew for comments made on a broadcast. I've seen networks like Clearfield that we all pretty much are all part of these days, or universities come out and do things like that, but I've never seen a conference do it. So I think that's a precedent that's now been set. I think it's fine to disagree with an officiating call. We all see the game differently. And especially with those of us that have the ability to review a play and see a replay and go, yep, that was interference. They should have got that one. But I think when you question the integrity of officials, that's a line that you should never cross, because I've never met an official that didn't take their job 100% seriously. This is their livelihood. I remember Spurs fans were so upset with Joey Crawford for years when he kicked Tim Duncan out of the game for laughing. I think Joey Crawford just got his signals messed up or had a bad day. And it cost one of the best officials in the history of the NBA the playoffs that year. And in the start of the next season, he didn't officiate for several games. And the Crawford family goes back to Joey Crawford and a guy named Shaq Crawford, who coached, umpired Major League Baseball games for about 40 years. So these guys, they are human, but they take this very, very seriously. There was a situation a few weeks ago when UTSA was at UTEP. And I always read off the officials' names at the start of the game just to give them credit for being there. And one of the names on that list was some name Hockley. I can't remember the first name. Well, Ed Hockley, the longtime official in the NFL, was a graduate of UTEP. And I did question how is a Hockley able to refer either his son or his nephew or some relative went to school there. And I think that's a fair question to ask, and we didn't make a big deal about it. We just, there's a Hockley that is refereeing the game tonight. And so I think it's fine to tell people, I think they missed that call. I know that Jay Riley on our broadcast will use a Ray Charles reference from time to time in humor. But I think when you call out people by name, you accuse them of cheating, and then you accuse the conference of cheating so that the conference gets style points for Iowa State potentially getting higher ranked. I think that's over the top. And I don't think there's any conference on the planet that tells their officials call this game in favor of one or the other. And I don't think there's any official that would listen to them if they did.
Andy Everett will have the call on Saturday, assisted by Jay Riley and Pat Evans. 2:30 kickoff at the Alamo Dome against UAB. A huge game for 10-0 UTSA. Pregame at 12:30 on Ticket 760 in San Antonio. And of course, if you're outside San Antonio, you can access that on the iHeartRadio app. Andy, we've got probably about 45 seconds left, but I got to get your gut feeling. You've called every game. Are you feeling that UTSA is going to get this win on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's one of those times where, look at the NBA. I'll use that as an example. There was years that Detroit couldn't get past Boston, and they eventually did. And there was years Chicago couldn't get past Detroit, and they eventually did. And it's, the Spurs were in that same boat. They finally got to an NBA Finals. And I think this is the time. And with this group of players and these super seniors, and the culture pillars that Jeff has established, this team is locked in and focused. And it's going to be a great game. I think it'll be a one-score game. I think it'll come down to the fourth quarter. But I think the triangle will come through, and I think UTSA will pull out a tight game.
Our thanks to Andy Everett. Tune in, or better yet, be at the game and tune in as you're down there. Alamo Dome, 2:30. If you're in San Antonio or in striking distance of San Antonio, go support UTSA football. Our thanks to Andy Everett. Thanks to Bill Schoening. Thanks to Shannon, Salty Sweeney. And in the middle of that interview, Jeremy, seeing that tweet from Frank Harris saying he'll be back, as Shannon said to him, that's a huge assist for us this morning. We'll see you in 21 hours. Adios, amigos. Went up to the limit on that one with Andy. As soon as I asked that last question, I thought, uh-oh, we may be going over. All right, y'all. Adios, amigos. Thank you, Jason, Ralph, Pablo, Luisa, whoever else may be in here. We will see you tomorrow. Go Spurs, go. I'll see you on the radio tonight. Spurs, 6:30 pregame. After the game, we do Spurs React on video like this as well on 1200 WOAI's Facebook page, but I also push it out to wherever you're watching right now. So, adios.
BC Powder knows life pushes us to the